You won't believe how this story ends, but trust me, you're going to want to see this journey through to the very last second. So grab a cozy drink, get comfortable, and don't you dare click away, because the miracle that unfolds is one that still gives me chills. And if this story touches your heart even half as much as it did mine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to join our family of hope spreaders. You won't want to miss what we share next. The rain wasn't just falling, it was trying to wash the whole weary city away. For Michael, each drop against his tiny apartment window was another tick of the clock, another reminder of his failure. His 5-year-old son, Leo, was curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that was too thin, watching a cartoon on a tablet with a cracked screen. The glow lit up his small, serious face. "Daddy, are we having mac and cheese again?" he asked, his voice hopeful. Michael's heart cracked. The box of mac and cheese was the last real meal in the cupboard, and it was 2 days until his next paycheck from the warehouse. He forced a smile. "Maybe with a special twist tonight, buddy." The special twist would be watering it down to make it stretch. Life hadn't always been this hard. There was a time of laughter in a sun-filled house, of Sarah's smile from the other side of the dinner table. But cancer is a thief that doesn't just take a life, it takes a future, savings, and every shred of security. After Sarah died, the bottom fell out of Michael's world. The grief was a physical weight, but heavier still was the relentless pressure of being everything to Leo, both mother and father, provider and comforter, while his own spirit was shattered. He was drowning in a sea of bills, grief, and a love for his son that felt, terrifyingly, like it wasn't enough. The next evening, after a grueling double shift, Michael was driving home through the dilapidated industrial part of town. He was taking a shortcut, his mind a fog of exhaustion, when he saw them. Huddled in the recessed doorway of an abandoned bakery were 3 figures. A woman, her coat soaked through, was trying to shield 2 small, identical girls from the biting wind. They were maybe a year or 2 younger than Leo, their faces pale and hollowed. Something in the way the woman held herself, a fierce, desperate dignity even in utter ruin, stopped him. It wasn't just pity, it was a reflection of his own struggle, a mirror of what could have been if he'd had just one less paycheck, one more piece of bad luck. He drove past. His rational mind screamed at him, "You can't even feed your own son. You have nothing to give." But Leo's face flashed in his mind, safe and warmish in their apartment. He saw Sarah's kind eyes in his memory. He made a U-turn, his hands trembling on the wheel. Pulling up to the curb, he rolled down the window. "Excuse me." The woman flinched, pulling the girls closer. Her eyes were wide with fear. I don't have any money to give you," Michael said, his voice thick with his own shame. "But I have a warm car and an apartment not far from here. There's not much food, but there's a roof. Just for the night." Her name was Clara, and the girls were Maya and Chloe. They sat in his car, silent and shivering, the scent of damp wool and despair filling the small space. Back in the apartment, the single bulb in the kitchen seemed to spotlight their poverty. Michael heated the last of the mac and cheese, dividing it into 4 small bowls. He told Leo to share his crackers. As the children ate with a quiet, heartbreaking intensity, Clara told her story in a halting whisper. She'd fled an abusive husband with nothing but her girls and the clothes on their backs. She'd been surviving on hope and discarded food for a week, her pride the last thing to starve. That first night was a fragile truce with desperation. Clara and the girls took his bed, while Michael and Leo camped on the floor of the living room. Lying there, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of other people in his home, Michael felt a strange sensation. It wasn't the crushing weight of more responsibility, but a subtle shift. The all-consuming focus on his own misery was broken. He had to be strong for more than just Leo now. The following days were a tightrope walk. Michael's small paycheck was a laughable sum for 5 people. He swallowed his pride and visited a local food bank, something he'd been too ashamed to do for himself. Clara, despite her exhaustion, took over the small apartment with a quiet, capable grace. She patched Leo's torn pants, organized the cramped space until it felt almost cozy, and her calm presence soothed Leo's often anxious energy. The children, after the initial shock, became a tiny, chaotic pack. Leo, thrilled to have playmates, shared his few toys with a generosity that made Michael's throat tight. The sound of the 3 children laughing was a melody the dusty apartment had never known. The real turning point came a week later. Clara, while cleaning, found a forgotten box of Sarah's old things in the back of the closet. Among them was a pristine, professional-grade sewing kit. Sarah had been a gifted seamstress, a hobby Michael had almost forgotten. Clara's eyes lit up for the first time since she'd arrived. I used to work in a tailor shop," she said softly. Before the girls. That afternoon, she took a pair of Michael's old jeans that were frayed at the hem and, with breathtaking skill, transformed them into a perfect, stylish pair of shorts for Leo. A crazy, desperate, beautiful idea began to form in Michael's mind. That evening, he took the last of his savings, a terrifyingly small amount of cash he kept for emergencies. He didn't buy food. He went to a second-hand store and bought a pile of discarded, damaged, or out-of-style clothing. He brought it home and presented it to Clara with a nervous hope. "Can you fix them up? Make them new?" Clara's hands worked miracles. She turned a faded dress into a trendy skirt and a matching hairband for the girls. She patched a denim jacket with a vibrant floral fabric, making it look more expensive than it ever had. Michael, using the gruff charm he'd honed at the warehouse, took the revitalized pieces to a consignment shop downtown. The owner, a sharp-eyed woman named Evelyn, was impressed. She bought the entire lot on the spot and asked for more. The next day, Michael used that money to buy more fabric and clothing. Clara sewed. He sold. They reinvested. It was a tiny, fledgling business, born on a floor littered with fabric scraps, but it was a lifeline. They called it Second Stitch. Word began to spread. Evelyn started sending customers their way for custom alterations. A local boutique commissioned a small line of upcycled children's clothing. For the first time in years, Michael wasn't just working to survive, he was building. He and Clara, in their shared struggle, had become a team. A quiet respect and a deep, abiding affection grew in the space between their shared worries and small victories. One evening, about 3 months after that rainy night, they were all sitting around the small table. The apartment was warm, and the smell of a simple, hearty meal still hung in the air. The children were drawing, their faces smudged with marker but full of light. Maya had drawn a picture of a big man, a woman, and 3 stick-figure children under a giant, smiling sun. She'd written the word, family, at the top in wobbly letters. Michael looked at Clara, and she looked back at him. And in that silent glance was an entire conversation of shared hardship, mutual rescue, and a dawning, incredible love. He never expected any of this. He'd set out to give a single meal, a single night of shelter, thinking it was all he had to give. But that one small act of desperate kindness had set off a chain reaction. He hadn't just rescued a mother and her twins from starving, they had rescued him. They had rescued him from the slow starvation of the soul, from a life defined only by loss. They had given him a new family, a new purpose, and a miracle he never saw coming. And that, my friends, is the power of one act of kindness, even when you feel you have nothing left to give. You never know what miracle is waiting on the other side of your courage. If this story of hope and redemption inspired you, if it reminded you that light can be found in the darkest of places, do us a huge favor, smash that like button, share this video with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Because here, we believe in everyday miracles, and we can't wait to share the next one with you. Thanks for watching.